Anderson, second by Drake. Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte is not present. Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes. I'm sorry, 5 yes, 1 not present. Motion carries.
Thank you. This public hearing is to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 22 tentative budget. Anyone who wishes to be heard will have the opportunity to present written or oral testimony. Dr. Engel, are you going to go forward with the presentation?
Yes, we're definitely going to go forward with it.
Okay.
All right, next slide, Brandon. All right, we're going to be going through the FY22 budget. Next slide. Just wanted to say thank you to the Board of Ed and to Dr. Algrim. Next slide. This is the FY22 calendar budget proceedings. As you can see, we're at 9:28 for tonight. We're doing the public hearing, and later in the regular open session will be the under old business, an action item for the approval of the budget. Next slide. So the FY22 revenue assumptions, currently right now, total revenue is estimated at $71.7 million. Local sources currently estimated at 58.1. CPPRT at 825,000. State sources are estimated at 10.7 million. This includes the evidence-based funding formula at 7.4 million. Categorical payments, we're assuming all 4 categoricals will be made. Some might be a little bit smaller amounts, but they will be made. Also on the federal side, we're looking at 2.8 million increase due to IDEA, ESSER 2, and that's inclusive of Title I, 2, 3, and 4. Next slide. The expenditure assumptions. So total expenditures are at 72 point almost 6 million. Salaries at 37.8. We're also looking at benefits at 7.5 million. Purchase services at 6.3. Supplies and material at 4.5. Capital outlay at 1.4. Other objects, including special education and bond payments at 14,671,000. And then non-capital outlay of $244,000 for this year. Next slide. So this is the FY22 deficit across all funds and operationally. Across all funds right now, we're scheduled for 877,000 negative. And then operationally speaking, a little bit over $1 million, so 1,041,000 for the year. Next slide. This is the historical CPI. This is highly important because we're going to be coming up with the levy here in December. So right now our aggregate extension for the following year is at 1.4% or last year December's CPI. Next slide. So here's the 20 versus 21 CPI. You can see right now it's trending up a little bit. It's about 4.3. We hope that it stays there for this upcoming next year's December CPI, but it's a year delay. So hopefully good things are coming. I'm hoping so. All right, next slide. So across the education fund revenues, you can see local property taxes are making up 35.2 million, CPPRT at 825,000, local at 2.5 million, evidence-based funding at 7.5, income from the state is 1.2 million, federal side 2.8, for a grand total of 50.2 million for this upcoming year. Billings and Grounds, very similar structure, taxes at 6.2 million, and then local about 487,000 for a grand total of $6.7 million in revenue for this year. Next slide, debt service. It's just all local property taxes at 6.957 for this year, and this is basically money that comes in, money that goes out to pay our bonds that we've issued. Next slide. Transportation is a mix-up of taxes and state money, so this is part of the categoricals that we were speaking about earlier. So about 2.9 million in taxation. On the state side, about 1.9 in transportation reimbursement. So a grand total of a little bit over $5 million in revenue. IMRF, oh, sorry, next slide. IMRF and Social Security, again, primarily made up of local taxes, about 1.6 million. A little bit of CPBRT at about 200,000, grand total about $1.85 million. Capital projects, again, it's all local. This is just a small interest earning, so about 5,500 for the entire fund. Next slide. Working cash, a little bit in the local bringing in about 52,000. Interest earnings for the year, about 56,000, for a grand total of about $108,000 annually. Next slide. So this is the Tort Fund, about $825,000. This is all local. This covers our workman's comp and collective liability insurance for the district. Next slide. So this is all funds across all 9 funds. And as you can see right there, kind of going across revenue-wise, you're at $712,110 total. And you can see a vast majority is from local property taxes. Next slide. All right, so just kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of all revenue. So evidence-based funding formula is flat for this year, technically down a little bit. There's going to be a reduction / hold harmless at best for transportation, what we talked about prior. With limited lunch sales this year, though, with SSO versus a la carte. Tax collection should be back to normal, which is a very positive thing for us. User fees are expected to go back to normal as far as collection amounts and processing those. Impact fees, again, are going to be extremely low for this year. There's not a lot of new construction. And we are experiencing that last one there, more PTAB cases that I've seen in the last 4 years. So there's going to be quite a bit. Next slide. So this is visually how it's broken down. As you can see, 75% of it's made up of local property taxes, 1% CPPRT, local funds at about 4%, evidence-based funding from the state makes up 11%, other state funding makes up another 5%, and federally funded at 4%. All right. The education fund, this is all expenditures for it. As you can see, salaries make up the largest portion at about just a little bit over 35 million, benefits at 5.5, purchase services at 2.6, supplies and materials at 2.9, capital outlay very low this year, just under $400,000, dues and fees about 8 million, and for a grand total of about $54.8 million just in the ed fund. Next slide. Billings and Grounds, right now salaries are budgeted at just under 800,000, benefits at 126, purchase services about 1.7 million, supplies and materials about 1.2, capital outlay at 320,000. It's again pretty much the lowest level it's been in 4 years. So grand total about $4.1 million in Billings and Grounds. Next slide. Debt service is just a reflection of revenues coming in and expenditures going out. It's a zero sum. So there's that $6.6 million expenditures going out. Transportation, we have our salaries just under $2 million, benefits at $339,000, purchase services at $1.3 million, supplies and materials at $335,000. So total, as you can see, it's going to be a little bit more than last year because we had limited transportation routes last year, and this year we're going back to full schedule. So it's going to be a little bit over $4 million in expenditures for this year. Next slide, IMRF Social Security. Again, this is all benefits, about 1.5 million. Again, this is a direct reflection of salaries for those positions. So next slide. Capital projects, about 685,000. This is just for capital funds expenditures. Again, not a lot going on this year. This is going to be a pretty small year. So again, it's coming out of capital outlay and 685,000 for the year. Next slide. This is our tort expenses. This goes back to our workers' comp and collective liability, $695,000 in total expenditures and its purchase service. Next slide. So looking at everything going across, you can see a vast majority of our expenditures are salaries, benefits, and dues and fees, which are inclusive of special education cooperatives. So grand total of $72,589,000. Next slide. So this is another representational breakdown of how the money's being distributed. As you can see, salaries make up 52%, benefits at 11%, purchase services at 9%, supplies and materials at 6%, capital outlay at 2%, and then dues and fees, including special education, at 20%, and non-capital, it's less than 1% of our total expenditures. Next slide. Any questions? Thank you.
Will the board clerk read into the record any written testimony concerning the proposed fiscal year 22 tentative budget?
We did not receive any.
Thank you. Are there any persons or person or persons who would like to provide an oral testimony or public comments during the proposed fiscal year 22 tentative budget? Are there any additional comments from the Board of Education? All persons desiring to be heard have been given the opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect to the fiscal year 22 tentative budget. The fiscal year 22 tentative budget has been placed on tonight's agenda as an action item. May I please have a motion to close the public hearing for the fiscal 22 tentative budget and return to open session?
I move to close the public hearing for the FY22 tentative budget.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Drake and second by Anderson. Mr. DeMonte? He's not present. Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, 1 not present. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That leads us into the open session. The first topic on the open session is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone would please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
I do not.
If not, I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second by Anderson. Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte is not present. Mrs. Blair? Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
And Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, 1 not present. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is recognitions, and we've got some people to recognize.
We do have a very special athlete to recognize this evening, so thank you, everybody, for your attention. Keegan was recognized by several thousand people, I guess it was on Friday evening, so this is a much more quaint group, but Ms. Belmont, I think, is going to do this recognition.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Junior Keegan Nat. Keegan competed in the 2020 Paralympic Games in Tokyo this past August and early September. Keegan is a swimmer, and she competed in the 400-meter freestyle. She's also the youngest member of the entire Team USA, not just swimmers, which consisted of 240 athletes. Even though still just a junior in high school, Keegan already has national and international experience besides the Tokyo Games. She competed in the 2018 Para-National Swimming Championships and the 2019 Para-Pan American Games in Lima, Peru. As a freshman, Keegan was also on the Blue Devil swim team. She was an IHSA All-State swimmer by placing second in the 50 free, the 100 free, and the 200 freestyle. She also placed third in the 100-meter backstroke. On top of being an elite athlete competing at the international level, Keegan is also an excellent student at Warren. But most importantly, Keegan is a great young lady, and Warren is very lucky to have her here. Here's Keegan.
Keegan, you want to say anything? Share some insights?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone here at Warren for helping me further my education. The teachers and everyone here has been so great helping me, and even though I've been missing quite a bit of school due to some swim meets or something, they've been great.
That's all.
I've never heard the Olympics called or something before.
Well, they've all been great, and yeah, I just had a great time there, and I'm super excited for the future.
So how did you like Tokyo?
It was really nice there.
Is it
yeah.
crowded, like crazy
Not
people?
really.
No?
It was really clean there too. Yeah.
Cool.
Ms. Belmont, will you, just because Keegan's up there, will you share on, at the football game, the other two athletes that you were able to recognize?
Nefali Papadakis is, she competed in judo at, in the Olympics. She is a 2017 grad, and it was her first Olympics, and she has a little bit of international experience. And she, like Keegan, is continuing to train to hopefully get to the Paris Olympics. And then we had Isaac Jean-Paul, who was a 2011 graduate. He competed in the Paralympics as well. He was not here Friday. He actually lives in San Diego, and he teaches and coaches young Paralympic athletes, or hopefully future Paralympians. He got a bronze medal in the long jump in Tokyo. So it's really, I think, as you know, pretty amazing and unusual to have 3 people in the same Olympics from any high school, especially Warren, you know, so it's really cool and it's really special.
Incredible.
And thanks to your parents for coming in tonight as well, so congratulations, you all. Thanks, Keegan.
Next up is the President's Report. The one thing I want to bring up is there's a ISAB Delegate Assembly on Saturday, November 20th at 10:30. We have 2 delegates. One of them has to be there in person to vote. So I will talk to Tony and Bensi later on to make sure that we have representation there, and someone shaking their head.
I'm not going. I'm going to be out of town.
No, it's Tony or Bensi. So.
Okay, all right.
So I will talk to them and make sure that we are properly represented then. And the only other topic I had is just an open session again. Thank the board for all the time that you spent so far on the superintendent search and all the time that you are going to be spending on the superintendent search. And then if there's any other questions or topics that the board would want to bring up for this meeting or a future meeting, please let me know.
Will do.
Now we are on to committee reports.
We have no committee reports.
Going on to superintendent reports.
We do have a superintendent's report that will start with those 3 students over there who are representing our student organization. Can you give me one more slide, Brandon? I want to find out where we're at on my slide deck. So to remind the board that we do have each year a district student leadership council. Last year was a little bit different with remote and all that kind of stuff, but generally speaking, we've invited some of the presidents, vice presidents, leaders of some of our organizations to be part of our student leadership council. Right now, the list might grow a little bit, but Taylor Simmons represents our Black Student Union, and Shar Ezernak represents our National Honor Society. They'll be at future meetings, but we do have Grace Liu representing our Future Business Leaders of America, and Lauren Gertig and Karen Kim representing our Student Council. And if you can go you all 3 ladies, you can all come to the podium, if you will. And I think Grace is going to be first. If we go one more slide there. I believe, yeah, I think she is. So Grace, you are up first, and your slides are up on the screen, and you can just tell us to move along. And introduce yourself one more time for the board, just so they're a little bit aware of you.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace Liu. I'm a senior, and I'm the president of Future Business Leaders of America here at Warren, otherwise known as FBLA. Next slide, please. So just wanted to talk about a few things today, and the first thing being our current membership. So as of right now, we have about 155 members in our database, meaning they've attended our meetings and paid their dues. In order to become a member, students just have to pay their $20 dues at their campus bookstore and fill out a membership form. And once they do this, they're added to our Canvas page where we post our updates, our links, any contact info, and just updates about our organization. The next thing I want to talk about was just our organization's goals. So the first one is to help members develop leadership skills. I know as a freshman coming into the school, I was kind of shy and timid, didn't really have that much public speaking skills, but joining FBLA really helped me find my place and become a better leader. And a lot of our officers are like really great role models as well, and we just hope that students can learn from them, and we have many activities to promote leadership as well. Additionally, we hope that members can make meaningful connections. As you can see, we have 155 members, so that's a lot of new people to meet and a lot of new friends to make. And we also hope to expand our membership to about 200 members. And additionally, our last goal is to contribute to our community. So we have a lot of volunteer events when it comes to helping out at the school itself, such as volunteering at open house, registration, the bookstore, and also other community organizations like Gurney Park District or Feed My Starving Children. So one of our greatest values is just to help out in our community. And lastly, I wanted to talk about just a few of our events that we had and are coming up. The first being August and September general meetings. So the August general meeting just served to sort of introduce new students to the idea of what FBLA was and what we do, and just get their interest in general. The September general meeting had more volunteer events and opportunities, and we wanted to make sure that students felt welcomed and part of a new organization here. And one of our next events that is coming up is the corn maze. So this is a tradition that we've done for the past years, and we all go down to Richardson's corn maze. And it's just a really fun time to actually get close with the people that you've met in an out-of-school setting. And it's one of like our members' favorite events, and a lot of people join just to make new friends here. So we're really looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You?
Hi, my name is Lauren. I am the student council president of the Allman campus. This is one of our busiest times of the school year. We've been working on homecoming and football season, so we've had a lot going on, and we just want to share some of it with you guys. First off, we've been working on the football games. It's something that we love doing for student council. We get to pick themes, and we've had a whiteout game, a retro game, a jersey theme, and a USA so far. Those are just some pictures of our student body at the games, and everyone's been getting really excited. It's great to be back, able to do those things.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm the vice president of the student council at Allman campus. So our theme this year is Welcome to the Jungle. And I'm really excited for this to turn out because like we missed our homecoming last year, so I'm really hoping that this will make up for it. So for J, we have Jersey Day, which was yesterday. U, Under the Sun, which was beach attire for us. Tomorrow, Neon Day. And then Thursday's gonna be Get Comfy, so bring out all the PJs. Just like, I hope students like roll out of bed, honestly. And Friday, Let's Go Blue Devils, just to show our school spirit right before homecoming. And then we added an E just to enter the jungle and to welcome all the students to this event.
Okay, so for some of our main events, we say we kind of start on Friday, trying to begin the actual homecoming. We have our football game, which is jungle themed, and as everyone probably knows, JV plays at 5 o'clock, varsity plays at 7:30. Student council gets very excited to decorate for that and help students kind of navigate what to wear, what to get excited about. And for Saturday, Saturday morning is the parade. It's a pretty yearly thing. I know that we didn't get to do a lot of this last year, but it's annual. And later in the day on Saturday is our dance. This year it's structured a little bit differently. We are doing a half inside, half outside at the Old Plain campus. Students inside will be required to wear a mask. We've been working really hard on this idea. It took some compromise, and we think that we did reach a solution that will be great for any student who wants to attend. They will have a choice, they'll have an option, and we're very proud of it. We're excited to decorate at Old Plain. It's a new space for us to use, and we get a lot of room to utilize this year. So yeah, thank you.
And for our pep rally, it's gonna be something not traditional because of COVID, we didn't want to have a lot of people inside the gyms at each campuses. So this pep rally, we were planning on doing it out on the football field at Old Plain, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock this Thursday, and we were planning on doing decorations like around 3 o'clock at Old Plains to just show the school spirit. And for the pep rally, we're planning on having a color wars as the theme. So the seniors would wear black, juniors wear blue, sophomores wear white, and then the freshmen wear yellow. And at the Pep Rally, we're planning on having fall sports and activities recognitions, the cheer team, Devilettes, the drum line. And then we're going to do the homecoming court crownings for each year, and the hype video, and the spirit stake, and the football captains will be giving a speech. And this is something new, but we decided as a student council to do a class dodgeball tournament. And I feel like I'm like very interested in seeing how it's gonna go, especially like the junior senior game, because we've always had like a little beef with them from like freshman sophomore years. So but I'm very excited to see the turnout for that, and we had like a Google form to see who was interested in each class, and we randomly selected 15 of them. And after the pep rally, we are planning on doing an outdoor movie on the field. And the movie that we picked was Jumanji, and there's going to be like popcorn, snacks, all provided, but then the students have to pay for those on their own. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Three back sometime in the future, I'm sure, when we have updates from FBLA and Student Council and our other organizations. Did want to make sure the board was aware. The parade is a new route this year. It's starting at the Gurnee Police Department. It's only staying, it's not crossing Washington or Grand. It's just staying on Old Plain between those two. So it starts at the Gurnee Police Department and it ends at our Old Plain campus. And we are spot number 2 for those board members that are participating. We are spot number 2 in the parade. We need to be, for people who want to meet at Old Plain, we'll meet here at 8 o'clock. If people want to meet at the police department, need to be there at 8:30 because they'll start shutting down any back and forth probably sometime around 8:40 or 8:45. So 8:30 at the police department or 8 o'clock at Old Plain. For anybody who shows up, Student Council was nice enough to donate some t-shirts for board members who are participating. So we're looking forward to that parade and the new route. And with a lot of this stuff, I appreciate Student Councils, not only the members, but our sponsors and our administrators, just being creative and try to how to make things as normal as possible. So thanks, you guys. We have a couple other things to go forward with. And so at this point in time, if you guys need to hit the road, you certainly can. But we're going to have another presentation, I believe, from Mr. Gio Karas, I think, is going to come up and talk about ALOP and grant funding. And Dr. Kirk is joining you, I think.
Okay, so Dr. Kirk and I are going to talk a little bit about our grant funding for this year. Talking to last board meeting, we spoke about the ESSER grant program. Happy to report that we did hear back from the state, and while we did have to make some small adjustments to our grant application, the activities that we talked about our last board meeting were approved. So we're excited to move forward with that grant plan. But tonight we're going to talk about titles 1, 2, 3, and 4, and our CTEI and Perkins grants, as well as our ALOP program. So next slide, please, Brandon. So ESSA is the Every Student Succeeds Act. That encapsulates 3 grants, Titles 1, 2, and 4. Title 1 is serving our at-risk student population. Title 2 is for professional development and high-quality teachers. And Title 4 is to address technology needs, social, emotional, and well-rounded education for students. So in Title 1 this year, we received $279,040 in our initial allotment from the state. These numbers are as they stand right now, but usually right around this time of year, a little bit in October, we get additional rollover funds, money that we didn't use last year that we'll then allocate for additional activities. But as of right now, we have $279,000 in Title I. Excuse me. And that goes towards some teacher salaries in our at-risk for our at-risk teachers. Stipends and benefits for some programs that we offer for homeless students, and then also like Warren Reads, things of that nature. After-school tutoring, our Achieve Summer program, and our reading specialist is what's kind of included in those salaries. SWS, School Within a School, some of the supplies that they use in those classrooms, our Edgenuity credit recovery software, Novels for our school within a school reading programs, supplies for our Achieve program, not fail-safe, I forgot to update that. It's Reach now. That's our freshman at-risk program. Some of our MAP licensing, an SAT prep course that we offer for students who are at risk of not meeting college career readiness benchmarks. We run that program with Huntington Learning Center. Our homeless liaison, stipend and benefits, supplies for our homeless students to give them some extra things that they may need, and then curriculum writing for specific courses that serve at-risk students. In Title II, this year our initial allotment is $74,000. We utilize the bulk of that for tuition reimbursement for our staff members, as well as professional development for teachers and administrators. Title IV, this year our initial allotment was only about $18,000, which is down significantly from a year ago. But due to the pandemic last year, we do anticipate having a significant amount of rollover funds in this grant. And this is an important grant for us because this is where we generate a lot of our funds for our social emotional learning, our wellness fair, our de-stress fest, and a lot of the other equity initiatives that we have in the district. So right now, in the grant as it stands right now, and we'll be adding additional activities that when the rollover funds come, we have materials for our Live Arts Festival in April, financial assistance for our AP exams. That's for students that are free and reduced lunch. The College Board reduces that fee, but not all the way. We use the Title IV grant to cover the rest of that amount. So those students can take the exams for no cost. We have money for Wellness Fair and De-Stress Fest, as well as Wellness Wednesdays, which is a new thing that Rob and Michelle are running this year at the buildings with some great success. And then also, we've begun a first-generation college student program. Began that right before the pandemic hit in 2020, so we're excited to get that program up and going. And Carrie McGann and Trini Hartley, our two college career counselors, are running that program. And then, like I said, rollover funds are not yet available, but as soon as those come in, we amend the grants. We already have a list of identified activities that we're going to add in, and we'll get those going as soon as we can. Next slide, please. So for EL funding, basically we have two funding mechanisms for our English learners. One is through evidence-based funding, so $57,000. That's from the state of Illinois. And we use that money for salaries for one of our EL teachers. Summer school bilingual aids to support English learners in summer school, as well as to help pay for proctors to come in and test access. Access is the annual state test that English learners have to take. It's a measure of progress, and if they score a certain level, they can exit the EL program. And due to, if we need to bring in outside proctors because it's a long test, it occurs over several weeks, and we can't pull teachers out of classrooms for that length of time. Reading materials for sheltered and newcomer classes, and instructional software and other supplies. We work with all of our sheltered teachers to identify needs that they have for the classroom. We utilize evidence-based funding to make sure that they have everything that they need to work with those students, engage those students in learning. And then APPLE is a language proficiency exam. So our students that were EL and may have exited out of EL, that means they actually satisfied the English part of the seal of biliteracy. So we pay for their APPLE test for their native language to hopefully earn those kids seal of biliteracy credit, which is free. It's like similar to like passing an AP Spanish exam or an AP French exam. So hopefully we have some kids that can take advantage of that and earn some college credit. LIP is the Language Instructional Educational Program. Title III, that's the federal grant. We have about $20,000. We use summer school for EL students. We pay summer school salaries for teachers. We run 2 EL classes in the summer to get them some English credit. Professional development for EL teachers that occurs throughout the year. So we make sure we can get our teachers to professional development so they can learn different emerging instructional strategies and what's current in working with students who have limited English proficiency. Again, we try to outfit our EL teachers with whatever they need, utilizing these funds for instructional supplies, and then also we fund parent outreach through our Title III program. Next slide, please. CTI and Perkins, these are the two grants for CTE, Consumer and Technology Education, so really our business and industrial tech programs. This year we purchased computers for Project Lead the Way. And these computers are going to the labs at Old Plain and Allman campuses. We also got some instructional supplies for computer science and our fashion marketing courses, and some equipment for Project Lead the Way courses. And then the Perkins grant, about $25,000. So again, some additional supplies for fashion marketing, woods, and our CAM courses. CAM is computer-aided manufacturing here at the Allman campus. And then we also were really excited. We found our Jamie Zabin, our business lead teacher, found these down view computer desks. So basically, the monitor sits inside the computer table, so kids have workspaces as well as the monitor. And those are in our Tech Academy spaces at the Oakland campus. And it's really freed up a lot of space, and the kids love it. And then some additional equipment for our Project Lead the Way courses. The IDEA grant, so the special education grant, this year we had $706,235 allocated to the district through the IDEA grant. We're using that to pay for 15 one-to-one classroom aides, professional development and staff training for special education teachers, and tuition for some CEDAW students, or some of our students who are attending CEDAW. Any questions about our federal grants? Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who's going to talk about our ALOP program for the 2021-22 school year.
The last grant we'll talk about is the ALOP grant, the Alternative Learning Opportunities Program grant. We have two programs under this grant, the Transition Program, which began in 2014 and 15, and our Bridges Evening Program. We did implement a second part of the Bridges Evening Program for summer school to allow some kids to get their graduation diploma a little bit sooner. Each year, the ALOP grant allows us to implement programs to offer a broader range of educational opportunities for our students. Each student does complete a student success plan, which does help us tailor some educational supports to them. The first program we'll talk about is the Transition Program. The Transition Program is designed for students with special needs through the age of 22. We provide them opportunities to learn, develop, and apply academic and functional skills in a variety of environments. We have our Transition Center, which is housed at the Oakland campus. We also have our students in the community and at various work sites. The program really works to increase student independence and to strengthen self-advocacy. They have three main components of that design: independent living, work-based learning, and community access. For independent learning, they're looking to increase the independence of our students, help them learn to be self-advocates and self-determination, and to increase their problem-solving skills. The work-based learning is focused on career exploration and awareness, help them prepare themselves for a job in the community. We do have on-site training as well as community-based training. For community access, it really is looking at teaching our students how to access resources in the community. It also teaches them skills with money, communication, transportation, and functional reading. For our Bridges Evening Program, one of our slides got messed up. All right, so for our Bridges Evening Program, it's intended for students who are struggling with the day school program or might be at risk of not completing their diploma within the 4 years, or for those students who are not able to complete their requirements for their diploma. Students must be at least 16 years of age to enroll in the program. They must have completed 4 semesters of high school, and they have to be able to complete their diploma requirements by the age of 21. Basically, our goals, one more slide, sorry. Our goals for the Bridges program is to get them to earn their Warren diploma. And we also want to give them supports, thank you. We also want to give them support so that if they are able to return to day school, we want them to be able to do that. We also want them to be able to enroll in a post-secondary program if that's their choice. We want them to be able to enter a training program or an adult education program. And we also want them to be able to obtain competitive employment. Next, please. We have about approximately 60 students currently enrolled in the Bridges Evening Program. We have 2 teacher-led classrooms and an online classroom available Monday through Thursday. The core classes, the teacher-led classes, are in English, math, PE, and social studies. Friday is our day dedicated to online learning, which currently we use the Edgenuity program. Students can earn credit also from work experience. So if they are working, they are able to apply that to a credit. Our staffing consists of 2 guidance counselors, 14 teachers, 4 supervisors, 1 case manager, and a social worker. Some of the things that our students tell us, part of the student success plan does involve getting feedback from our kids. So this is just an example of some of the things they've said. Some of the things they like about the Bridges program is that it is smaller, so they do get more targeted help. A lot of these kids, they knew they weren't going to graduate, and they kept being told that, and this is a time for them to realize, wait, maybe I can graduate, and so they get a little bit more self-esteem, they get a little bit more self-confident. It also helps because they are able to move at their own pace, and so they don't get kind of dragged along with the rest of the class. And also, a lot of the kids in there are focused on getting their diploma, so it is a lot less distractions for our students. Next. So if we look at the Bridges Evening Program from 2012 to present, we have about 56% of our students who have earned their Warren diploma, which I think is a big, giant thing. We had 22 kids either transfer out or they just never returned the following year. We had about 11% who did drop throughout the years, and currently we have about 10% of the kids working right now. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Nope, all good, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Dr. Kirk. Dr. Engel, I think we have a treasurer's report up next. We do?
All right, can everybody hear me okay? We're going to go through, I just wanted to give an update of currently where we are. So we're comparing again the end of August here, $36.3 million. You take out debt service and you take out a little bit of capital projects. What happened? Oh, want me to sit there? I could sit there and do it if you don't mind. That'd be a little easier. Thanks. You're fine. So if you take out the debt service of 3.1, you have a balance of 33.2 million. 33.2 million carried out capital projects negative 700,000, brings you back up to 33.9. 33.9 million is available working cash. You take out the restricted remaining part, you end up with 23.9. So approximately 33.33% fund balance as of the end of the month. Again, in comparisons, if we go back about 12 years, we're at about 50 plus percent at that point in time. Next slide. All right, next slide. Okay, so year to date, as far as total revenues right now, year to date was 9.9 million. Total expenditures about 9.7. Total cash on hand is 36.374 million. Next slide. All right. Actual revenues to date, we should be trending about 18.14%. We're at about 15.39. Our local sources are a little bit low right now. We're at about 20.9, but we just actually received 3 disbursements for the month of September, so that'll be getting caught up. And actual year-to-date state sources, we're at about 14.4, where we should be right around 8%. So we're doing all right as far as the state's concerned. Next slide. On the expenditure side, we're actually doing okay. We're not doing fantastic. We're doing okay. We should be right around 10.4%. We're at 14.9. Salaries and benefits, we should be hypothetically right around 8. We're at about 10%. And then outside other objects and everything else, including special ed, we should be right around 16.24. We're right around 25.94. So that's everything so far for this year. Now the next slide is going to show kind of where our fund balances are and where we kind of peak out. If you'll notice, last year there was in red. We kind of saw a little uptick there in July, then another little downtick there in August. We've been pretty much flatline. We've had revenue come in that has basically offset our expenditures within $200,000, which we've been trying to maintain. If we can maintain that throughout the rest of the year, it'd be absolutely fantastic. As you'll see, we'll see a rather large jump there in September because we had 3 allocations from Lake County treasurer's office that came as far as taxes came in. So you'll see that'll be our peak there in September, then you'll see the natural drawdown. I'm going to try to get where we were last year as far as that slope of decline. Right now it's showing a little bit steeper than it was last year. If you'll notice, it kind of widens the gap as we go throughout the end of the year. Given that our fund balances will be lower than last year, considering each month going forward, our expected, again, our low point is probably going to be an earlier May than it would be like the second or third week in May, like in previous years. So it's just going to hit us a little bit earlier this year. So that shows you there. Next slide. So again, this is for the month ending of August 31st. You have total fund balances of 36.1. Revenues, this is just for the month, of 5.5. Expenditures coming out at 5.2. Next slide. And then this is year to date. Again, we've had $10.7 million in revenues and 9.8 in expenditures year to date. So we're going to try to maintain that as long as possible. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Engel.
Just one more thing for the superintendent's report. Before I forget, we did have two FOIAs since our last meeting. One from Vince Espy from Local Labs regarding COVID-related data, and one from Ronnie Marie Davis at Data Research Partners regarding employee directory information. And we, I think all board members also have a copy, or if not, we'll get you a copy of our important date sheet. That's just important to note that we did add a couple of committees on there, very timely committees. Our finance committee meeting and our curriculum committee meetings are next week, and then we've also scheduled our safety meeting for the very end of November. So want to make sure we brought those committee meetings to the board's attention as well. And that's all for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Algrim. Next up is the consent agenda. Assuming that we still don't have any changes to it, so I'm going to go ahead with a motion. I move to approve the consent agenda items, which includes Exhibit A, personnel recommendations, numbers 43 through 45 as posted, and Exhibit B, athletic and activities personnel recommendations, numbers 12B through 15B as posted. The payment of the bills for September 28, 2021 in the amount of $3,918,271.20. The regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of September 14th, 2021, and acceptance of gifts to the district as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Drake.
I abstain.
Mrs. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
And Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
We have 5 yes and 1 abstention. Motion carries.
It's on to new business. We have a resolution to close the bank account.
Yes, this is for Lake Forest Bank and Trust. The account has gone dormant. This account was originally funded for by the district and used for the Horseman flexible spending. Over the years, the account has grown, and at the end of calendar year 2020, Horseman required flexible spending funding and transactions to be processed through a bank account that they owned and operated. These funds are already accounted for on our balance sheet, and we're just asking the Board of Education to close the account and transfer the funds to First Midwest Bank.
Questions? If not, I move to approve the resolution to close Lake Forest Bank and Trust account and designate the remaining balance to be applied to the board's general operating account currently held at First Midwest Bank.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Drake. Mr. DeMonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Blair.
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Drake.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
6 yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is a proposal for the train building services.
Yes, this is for the head-in room over at the Old Plain campus. We've had it fail multiple times throughout the years. The system's outdated. We're unable to monitor the status, and when it overheats, we literally only have hours to kind of either get it under control or we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Right now, this is a full turnkey solution from Train. It's part of their Omni Partners through the U.S. communities. It's been competitively bid, and we're asking the Board of Education to approve this for this year.
This is what Chris talked to us about last meeting, because he said it was failing all the time, it was having lots of trouble, and we did it here already, correct?
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say, we have an arrangement with Train somewhere on the campuses.
Well, I think they do a lot of the HVAC even at O'Plain, the general HVAC, but we did the head end here with the same system last year?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
The hot summer that we just had, it performed.
Else? If not, I move to approve the proposal with Train Building Services dated September 22, 2021 for the Old Plain Campus head end room HVAC replacement at a cost of $92,080.
Second.
Second by Martinez. Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Martinez. Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
It's on to old business.
Yeah, the first item in old business is the adoption of the budget that Dr. Engel presented, and that's been posted publicly for the required days, and it's approximately $1 million deficit budget for FY23, FY22.
Questions or comments on this? If not, I move to approve to adopt the fiscal year 22 budget. Whereas the Board of Education of Warren Township High School District Number 121, County of Lake, State of Illinois, caused to be prepared in tentative form of a budget, and the Secretary of this board has made the same conveniently available to the public inspection for at least 30 days prior to the final action thereon. And whereas a public hearing was held as to such budget on the 20th day of September 2021, notice of said hearing was given at least 30 days prior to thereto as required by law, and all other legal requirements have been complied with. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of said district as follows. Section 1, that the fiscal year of the school district be and the same hereby fixed and declared to the beginning of July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022. Section 2, that the following budget containing an estimate amounts in each fund separately and expenditures from each be, and the same is hereby adopted as the budget of this district for said fiscal year.
Second.
Roll call.
They could make that more difficult, I think.
A lot of lawyers in there.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte? Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next up is a referendum update.
Yeah, I think, Brandon, if you can just hit one slide. So just little things on my end just to start, and then board members may want to jump in as well. But as you're aware, we did have some informal informational sessions with a number of parent groups early on, our drama group and our band parents. Those were informal. And then we also had some open house informational sessions before and after our open houses. We created a video, put that on the website. Ms. Martinez, Mr. Anderson came out and joined us at the Fill the Drum, because that was a group of parents that we did want to make sure we addressed, and thanks to them for their being there to support, and Dr. Keeley as well, just to try to make sure that, you know, as one thing we had talked about after the last referendum failed was trying to make sure that we don't have people coming forth after the fact saying they didn't know anything about it. So we're trying to make sure we capture all those opportunities. We created a little just a little for, in the meantime, a little kind of trifold just to try to capture a lot of the information, but obviously there will be more formal communications probably going out in the second semester. That we would be community-wide, obviously, like we did about 4 or 5 of them last time around. This time it'll probably just be 2, but very important that we do that to the whole community. But we did want to at least make sure people have a takeaway from these events, just in case they want to catch those later. And we're still, right now, the other thing that we're open to, we need board members' help on a little bit. If you hear of anything, we're more than happy to go on the road to, if you will, neutral sites, or maybe sites where it's not our normal school community, but more of broader community presence at sites, like just brainstorming places that might be good for us to go, and, just give us a little direction. We'll reach out and just see whether they have interest. So, Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, Dr. Algrim and I had some communications going back and forth to try and do something like once a month until June, more often if necessary. Maybe on school, but preferably off school in different areas of town to make it more convenient to parents. And after a while, to make them very targeted. For example, have a similar presentation like we did at the open houses, but then have an email blast or headed towards just to like the band parents or just to athletic parents. And I had asked maybe we could do something in October right away and just have a general one and, just have the topic to try and attract people, say, come and find out why your registration fees are so high. Just to try and get, we just went through registration. All the parents had to write out those checks. So try and find some place off-site, whether it be the library, the village hall, the police station, where we could get a couple people from the administration there. Like I said, go through the same presentation. If a couple members of the board would like to go there too, again, no more than 2, just so we've got administration, we've got some board members, and hopefully a good handful plus of parents who would like to learn more about the referendum.
The good thing is, it comes out of those too, is you find people that are willing to join the committee, the citizen committee, to help work the process, even though we're just giving information, but the people do get interest. So that's very helpful as well for every one of those meetings that we have, so.
I've been happily surprised after all the open houses. We'd give people a chance to ask questions, we'd answer them, then afterwards there's more conversations. How many people went in there thinking no, and they saw the presentation, then had a conversation and learned more and went, I didn't realize that. How can I help with this? I mean, just to get more information to the people. So not trying to get them to sway one way or another, but just trying to make sure they have all the data they need to make an informed decision. So I thought these open houses were very powerful. I just want to have more of them.
We also talked about having in the spring a session for Spanish-speaking families.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what I'd asked Dr. Algrim, and this might be news to Jean or somebody else, is try and find a place where we can meet with a group in October. I know there's plenty of board members that can make themselves available at almost any time. It would just be an hour or 2. But I think between the group of us here, we can find 2 people that do one in October. And then maybe with time, we can get more organized and schedule one for November, January, February, March, and pick locations and dates. And it'll be easier for the board members to commit, because it'd be nice to have a variety of board members at these type of meetings, especially if, I don't know this, but if a board member has, a relationship with the band, maybe their kids were in the band, well, that would be a good one to go to if we have one targeted towards band parents, because you got that relationship.
I'll sign up for sports.
I think there'll be a lot of people willing to sign up for that one, so.
I get first dibs.
The board support on this has been great, and I'll reach out to the people, some people that obviously are partners in the community that may have a space, and they do have like the library is a good example, Justin. I'm not sure they can do it or not, but they're a good example if they do have people who go there regularly who might not be different people than normally come on our school campuses. And so we'll at least start reaching out to places just to see whether or not they might have an interest in availability in hosting, and see how it goes. So we'll get on it right away.
What about like a church, a Catholic church, a Christian church, where they might have a
Meeting room.
meeting room, yeah.
Yeah, there's no, on our end, right, we're, like, we try to, wherever the people are gonna be is where we wanna try to make sure that we go and present the information. So it's not, our presentations are such that, well, we can use technology to do it, but we don't need technology to do it, right? And we're trying to, sometimes we have 5 minutes, right? And sometimes we have 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So just based on probably the size of the room, the technology, the amount of time we have, we can certainly make sure people understand, the cost to the taxpayer, because we do that every presentation that we give, just to make sure that they understand that it's not, there is a increase in taxes associated with it, right? But that's all, a piece of the discussion all along, so.
I'd say if anybody on the board has an idea, like you have, Natalia, something geared towards, Spanish-speaking people, and maybe if you got a location in mind, I think it's okay if you go ahead and set it up, the date and the location, assuming that board members and administration can make it. What I don't want to happen is to have the board sit back and say, okay, we talked about this, and maybe Dr. Algrim is going to organize everything. I don't want that. I want it to be a group situation where we're all participating in this, because it's important that we all work on this to make sure the community is aware of everything. So I think I did put a little bit of pressure on Dr. Algrim if he could set up the first one. But after that, I'll work on some dates, and maybe if we just put out tentative dates and tentative locations, I think once we get things on paper, it's easier to get things filled.
Yeah, I think we also have some transitions. As an example, we're probably transitioning right now, or getting ready to transition between our athletic seasons here. And so sometimes there might be parent meetings going on naturally that, we can just tie off of with, Ms. Belmont, who was here with some of the athletic meetings that may be happening. So we'll try to catch on to some normal meetings anyway, internally, but the external meetings will, it'd be great if you can look, and we'll try to find one in the next month for sure, so.
And all those sports have season-ending banquets or something too, which is when they're all really excited about how well things have gone. Might be a good time to just take 10 minutes,
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that at the end of this, we have fewer people, if any, who said they didn't know anything about it, right? So we'd much rather have people say, I'm hearing it for the 7th time. That's all right with us, as opposed to I didn't know anything about it.
So how are we updating so we don't go to the same places, same people? I mean, we don't want to be doubling, tripling. I'm thinking Warren Township. Has anybody asked the township? How do we know if their facilities are available with their...
I'd say right now we haven't gone anywhere, but once we've put together a tentative calendar and start going through places, I think we'll just have it all together, worked out. So I think it'll work itself out.
And I did, after my conversation with Mr. Schultz, I have already put out the request to the library. So that one has been asked, but other than that, no one.
Warren Township allows you to use their rooms if they're not in use for one of their senior citizens programs or whatever. Because I used to sign up for them for softball meetings or whatever. So they have, you can use those. The police station has a big room that you can use. There's multiple buildings that will allow you. You just have to go there, fill out the paperwork and say you want to use it. They usually don't have a charge even, because the building, your tax dollars are paying for the damn building anyway, so.
What about the American Legion, the one in the corner?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Do they charge a fee? We could
Don't
check.
know.
Not been to a well, I've been to one baseball meeting there, but that was for the baseball people that use the fields right behind them, so.
I'm just thinking of
I think
just
they was there,
local
I think they were
places.
there for the beverages that were for sale.
Likewise, if we could get any guidance and help meeting some of the PTOs and the feeder districts too, I think parents of incoming students, whether it's next year or a couple of years out, have a huge vested interest in learning more about this.
That's where I was, one thing that came to mind as we were talking facilities is to find facilities where the people most engaged to the topic would be. For instance, Gurney Park District, Hunt Club at pickup time for after-school care. Any kind of after-school or before-school programming, potentially the larger preschools in the area, if they have a parent group or a parent night or a table to set up. Park City, some of the teen centers, or Grandwood Park District, Wildwood Park District, anywhere that families with kids that would most likely be interested in this topic might be a better spot to go. So bring it to and they all have rooms to various degrees, and you already have relationships with a lot of these people. So, it could just be choosing our locations wisely.
And I don't think, if you come across a place or an event that you think would be good, we don't have to wait for a board meeting to discuss it and plan it.
Just take an action of the board to decide to have a meeting somewhere.
Right, because it's not a board meeting. There's only going to be no more than 2 board members there, so it's just community activism.
Thank you. And there's one more update. I believe Dr. Keeley has a few things.
Just a return to school update, the vaccination and testing mandate. We are testing those staff members who are not vaccinated, but again, we have approximately 95% of our staff is vaccinated. So our staff has done an amazing job with this. We have very few that we have to test. Students are being tested as well if they wake up in the morning with symptoms that go along with COVID, obviously. Parents are taking their kids for tests. They are delivering those tests to us when they return. Obviously the negative test. The vast majority of those tests they're turning into us, obviously, are negatives. And we developed a dashboard, too, to give some kind of perspective to people. I don't know if you have an opportunity to see it. It is on our Return to School website. We kind of update it weekly. I went back 2 weeks. And then this Friday, every Friday, we will update it, and it'll be weekly. And you can see the numbers and track it over time.
That's on the district website?
It is. When you go to the Return to School tab, it's a link on the left-hand side of the Return to School tab, and you can see it. Not only do you see our positive cases, but you see how many kids are in close contact. So it's students that are quarantined, again, either they're positive or they are close contact. Close contact number will always be higher because the positive is inside that number. Those are total quarantine students. And I believe it was 9 2 weeks ago, 4 positives this past week. I think it was 14 quarantined 2 weeks ago and 11 last week quarantined. I think those are the numbers, but don't quote me on that. Please check the website. Are you on it now, Tom?
Yeah, you got the numbers right.
Are the numbers right? Okay, very good.
What are the positive numbers?
So 2 weeks ago, I kind of went back 2 weeks, and I believe it was 9. Is that accurate, Mr. Drake?
Yes.
And then quarantine was 14. That 9 is inside the 14. The last week was 4 and 11. Is that correct? Very good.
That 4 is within the 11.
That's correct. So every Friday, we will update that. It's to get perspective right now. We're trying to be very transparent. Not all schools are taking this approach. Some are. Anytime we have a positive case reported to us, Dr. Algrim's blasting out an email to our community signifying what campus that particular case was at, if they were on campus, and they had to be on campus though. And positive 2 days before campus is when we kind of structure that too. So sometimes when you see those emails, the number is maybe 1 or 2 higher. Well, it's possible we had a positive case that was not on campus when they were contagious. Okay.
Are we still doing the contact tracing?
Say again?
Are we still tracing?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we are tracing.
Okay.
Our attendance office, our nurse's office, our administrators are working very hard. This is a very challenging thing to be under when we're tracking all these kids. When you talk about a normal day, you might have 100 kids absent. Then you got to squeeze down which one of those kids have the COVID symptoms. Then you got to make those follow-up phone calls from the nurse's office. Then you have to make sure that they're told to go get a test. Then we have them on a spreadsheet that is already over 400 for both campuses that we have contact traced at least to the point where we've told them to get a test, and then potentially trace kids too if there was ever a positive case who was a close contact. The good news is we have very few close contacts, because when we get into that situation, the question you ask to the kids, are you vaccinated? And we verify that vaccination. Once we find out they're vaccinated, they're no longer close contacts. So you could have a situation where you had a positive case, they sat with 4 kids at lunch, because that's our problem area, lunch and buses. But then you find out the 4 kids there around, 3 of the 4 were vaccinated. Okay, they're off, we don't have to deal with them anymore. They're good. And now it's only 1 kid that is considered a quarantine close contact. So really the vaccination from that standpoint, when you're talking about contact tracing and about keeping the building safe, there's no more powerful tool than the vaccination. There is no question about that. I know some districts are trying to test everyone. Vaccination makes everything simple and safe.
You see the news where the woman's sister said, yeah, she's waiting to be contact traced, but she died of COVID this morning. That was bad press for the Chicago Public Schools.
Yes, it was. But again, it's very challenging. The contact tracing process, it's overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming. Our Lake County Health Department, what they go through and how supportive they are of us, I'm thankful we have them. They meet with John and I every single week. I'm quite sure most other health departments are not doing that. With every superintendent who wants to attend in Lake County, we tune in every Wednesday morning. Tomorrow morning we'll be on. So they're extremely helpful with kind of guiding us through this whole process. And then, of course, our nurses. They're excellent. Okay. I think that was the last update, right? Yeah. All right, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Keeling.
Oh, so the remote learning, what we are working on, we'll be presenting to our teachers. What we will do for students that are quarantined, again, keyword quarantined, they will be able to kind of get an ear into the classroom. We're going to start that process up here next week. So when a student is under quarantine, is a positive or a close contact, they will be able to virtually get into the classrooms, so they're getting that instruction. Although it's not perfect, they will get some instruction while in quarantine. Last thing.
Doctor, what's the current quarantine timeframes for each?
10 days.
For close contact, it's the same, 10 days. Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. It gets a little different with athletes. There's a 14-day because of the close contact of them being in athletics, but 10 days that's what it is. Okay. Last thing, just so you know, just to kind of give you a heads up, obviously our attendance has changed. It's not as strong as in years past. Our no-count medical or our medical obviously that has increased. But what has also increased, which is kind of alarming to us, our absent excuse is actually a little lower. Our no-count medical, which is a kid who was either going out to get tested for a day and they're out for a day or two waiting for test results, okay, that number has increased, obviously, and that's a good thing. Our parents are doing the right thing, holding their kids out, getting them tested, waiting to return. What is a little concerning is our unexcused absences, which means we don't know why the kid's absent. We're calling, we're trying to get that absence cleared, is up significantly, and our excused personal is up significantly, and our vacation requests in the attendance code is up significantly. Obviously, that impacts kind of how we're doing things and how we're trying to help kids. If they're not here, we can't help them. I know this is a very challenging time, but I just want the board to be aware of our attendance is certainly in an adjustment period, and hopefully that will flatten as kids have just been out of school for a year and a half, and it's a little challenging to get back to coming Monday through Friday. It's an adjustment, but it's critically important. We can't help kids if they're not here. So we kind of take that really, I do anyway, I have no chance to help a kid if they're not here.
Could have been families that just planned vacations because they thought it was going to be remote.
There's no question. And some of that has come to us, like,
Yeah.
hey, we didn't think we'd be in, we booked a vacation. Okay. So I just want to make the board aware of that. Our attendance numbers, you will see a difference in our attendance numbers this year. There's no question about that. Okay? All right, thank you.
Dr. Keeling? No more old business?
No, thank you.
Okay. If not, that brings us to reception of visitors. I did not see anybody that was signed up. I'm not sure if anybody here would like to address the board, but if anybody would like to address the board, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to say no because everybody is a familiar face. That being said, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Drake. Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's take the rest of the night off.